The rain had already soaked through his jacket when the hood of the broken-down car lifted, and the cold crept into his bones like a warning that life could still get worse. Marcus Reed stood on the side of a quiet Ohio road, hands black with grease, stomach empty, heart heavy, wondering how a man could fall this far without making a sound. The woman watching him from a few steps away had no idea that this small moment, this simple act of kindness offered for the price of a sandwich, was about to rewrite both of their lives forever. If you believe that kindness still matters in a world that often feels cold and unfair, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Your support keeps stories like this alive and reminds others that second chances are real. Marcus was 36 years old, a single father raising his 8-year-old son, Noah, in a rented one-bedroom apartment that smelled faintly of old carpet and instant noodles. Life had not always been this way. Years earlier, Marcus had been a certified auto mechanic with steady work, a modest house, and dreams that extended beyond the next electric bill. Then his wife passed away suddenly from an undiagnosed heart condition, and the ground beneath his life collapsed without warning. Grief drained him slowly, quietly. He missed shifts, lost focus, and eventually lost his job. What followed was a chain of bad luck, worse decisions, and the kind of exhaustion that seeps into the soul. He picked up odd repair jobs when he could, fixing neighbors' cars in parking lots, accepting payment in cash, groceries, or favors. Pride had been replaced by survival. That morning, Marcus had walked Noah to school under a gray sky, promising him that dinner would be better tonight. He did not know how he would make that promise true. His wallet held $5 and a folded receipt. His phone was cracked, his car long gone, and his tools were carried in a battered backpack that felt heavier with every step. When he saw the sedan pulled over with hazard lights blinking like a silent plea, he hesitated. Helping meant time. Time meant lost chances to find work. But he also knew what it felt like to be stranded, unseen, and afraid. The woman was named Claire Whitman, though Marcus would not learn that until much later. She was in her early 40s, dressed neatly but not extravagantly, her hair pulled back in a tired knot. She had been driving back from a small town after attending to business matters that weighed heavily on her mind. Her car sputtered, coughed, and died just as the rain began to fall harder. Her phone battery was nearly gone, and the roadside assistance app refused to load. When Marcus approached, she felt that familiar tension of uncertainty, the instinctive fear every woman learns early. But there was something about his posture, the way he kept his distance and spoke softly, that eased her nerves. Marcus quickly diagnosed the problem as a loose serpentine belt and a failing tensioner. It was not a permanent fix, but he knew how to get the car running long enough to reach a service station. He worked efficiently, fingers numb, rain dripping down his neck. Claire watched, conflicted. She could tell he knew what he was doing, yet there was a weariness in him that suggested this was not his first time standing in the rain for someone else's sake. When the engine finally turned over and settled into a steady hum, relief washed over her. She asked what she owed him. Marcus hesitated, then told her the truth. He said he did not need much, just enough for food. He mentioned his son and how they had run out of groceries. He did not dramatize it. He did not beg. He simply stated facts with quiet dignity. Claire offered cash, but Marcus shook his head and said a sandwich would be enough. Something warm. Something simple. She drove him to a small diner nearby, one of those places with chipped mugs and faded photos of the town from decades ago. She ordered him a sandwich, soup, and coffee, insisting gently despite his protests. Marcus ate slowly, savoring every bite, aware that this might be the best meal he had all week. They did not exchange many words. Sometimes gratitude sits too deep for conversation. Claire watched him from across the booth, a strange ache forming in her chest. She had spent years building a successful consulting firm in Chicago, chasing contracts and promotions, telling herself that impact mattered more than intimacy. Recently, a series of events had shaken that belief. A corporate decision she had signed off on led to layoffs in a small manufacturing town. She had been visiting the site, trying to understand the human cost of boardroom choices. Seeing Marcus, a man clearly capable yet quietly drowning, forced her to confront the distance between her intentions and reality. They parted ways with polite nods and no promises. Marcus walked home feeling lighter, not just because of the food, but because he had been seen without being judged. Claire drove away thinking she would probably never see him again, but his face stayed with her through the night. The next day began like most others for Marcus, with worry pressing down before his eyes fully opened. He packed Noah's lunch carefully, making the last slices of bread count. After dropping his son at school, Marcus headed toward the industrial district, hoping to find someone who needed repairs. He did not notice the black SUV pull up behind him until a woman stepped out and called his name. It was Claire. She told him she had not slept well, that she kept thinking about him and his son. She explained who she was, what she did, and why his story mattered to her more than he could know. She said she did not believe in charity that disappeared after a moment, and she wanted to do something meaningful. Marcus felt his chest tighten, defensive instincts rising. Life had taught him to be wary of promises that sounded too good. Claire did not offer him money outright. Instead, she offered opportunity. She had contacts with local automotive chains and independent shops. She had already made calls. One shop nearby was expanding and needed a lead technician. They were willing to interview him that afternoon. She also mentioned a short-term stipend to help him stabilize until his first paycheck, framed not as a handout but as an advance for consulting work he could do later. Marcus listened in stunned silence, afraid to hope, afraid to believe. The interview went better than he could have imagined. His skills were sharp, his experience undeniable. By the end of the day, he had a job offer with benefits, regular hours, and a wage that made his hands tremble when he read it. He thought of Noah, of school shoes that fit, of dinners that did not come from cans. He thought of the rain, the roadside, the sandwich. In the weeks that followed, Marcus's life began to change in ways that felt almost unreal. He moved to a better apartment closer to Noah's school. He started saving, slowly but surely. He volunteered at the school's aftercare program, fixing bikes and broken toys. Confidence returned, not all at once, but in quiet increments. Claire did not disappear from his life, but she did not hover either. They met occasionally for coffee, talking about work, about loss, about the strange paths that lead people together. For Claire, helping Marcus reshaped her own sense of purpose. She began pushing her firm toward more ethical consulting, advocating for community impact assessments and worker transition programs. She funded a small scholarship for vocational training, inspired by Marcus's resilience. The act of stopping on that rainy road had reminded her that lives were not abstract concepts or data points. They were fragile, interconnected stories. Months later, Marcus stood in the school auditorium watching Noah receive an award for perseverance. The boy scanned the crowd until his eyes found his father, pride lighting up his face. Marcus felt tears well, unashamed. He knew how close they had come to slipping through the cracks. He knew how a single moment of kindness, given without expectation, had altered their trajectory. If this story has touched your heart even a little, please take a moment now to like the video, share it with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps spread stories that remind us of the power of compassion. Before the ending, I have a special request for you. Please comment below and tell us where you're watching from and whether you believe small acts of kindness can truly change lives. Your words matter more than you know. Marcus never forgot the taste of that sandwich, not because it was extraordinary, but because it represented a turning point. It reminded him that dignity can survive hardship, that asking for less does not mean you deserve less, and that sometimes the greatest miracles arrive disguised as ordinary people on the side of an ordinary road. Claire never forgot it either, because in helping him, she found a version of herself she thought she had lost. And somewhere in Ohio, under changing skies, a single